Welcome to CISO Interviews, where Affinia hosts cybersecurity executives sharing career advice, actionable insights, and tips so that you can enhance your career and succeed as well.
Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. As we begin, can you say a few words about your current role and what's in your purview?
Currently, I am the Chief Information Security Officer and Executive Director at Valleywise Health here in Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona. We are the safety net hospital for the county, and that's a designation, federal designation. And we're also the POTUS hospital for Arizona. So if the president comes to Arizona, we would be the hospital he would come to in the event of an issue. We're also teaching hospital for both the University of Arizona and Creighton University. So
amazing. So healthcare is obviously one of the heavier regulated industries together with financial services. So I'm sure you're probably between HIPAA compliance and all other questions. It certainly sounds like a very interesting area. And this kind of paints the picture of where you are in terms of your career trajectory. But to get a sense of the arc, how did you get started in cybersecurity? What was the first door that you opened?
I've been in IT for a long time, since back in the, we'll just say late 80s. Around the turn of the century, and I know that sounds like a long time ago, around 2000, I was working for a construction engineering firm in Pasadena, Parsons. And the CTO kind of looked at me and said, "Hey, we need an ISO, an information security officer." And we were looking at different tools and technologies anyway, but we didn't have the specific designation. And so I raised my hand because I'd done security at my previous position with the Power Exchange, running operations. And so I went down that path to start educating myself, getting my CISSP, getting certified, focusing primarily on security and security operations and security tools. And so it started there. And from there, each progressing position was both security and service management. And then in the last, I don't know, 15, 18 years, it's been specifically just security.
I see. Well, a few things have changed over the years, and
very much so.
Clearly, it's cybersecurity in general is just so much more top of mind for people who are not even directly connected. And I think as a result, there's a lot more money going to cybersecurity startups. There is a lot more attention from the board, C-level executives. There's just, I think, a lot more understanding. And I think it's probably a sign of the fact that technology plays an increasingly big role in our lives as individuals, as families, as organizations. So it's certainly it feels like an ever-expanding industry. And I think as a result, a lot more people either as you mentioned, are looking to transition from technology to cybersecurity, or maybe still at school trying to figure out what to do with their lives. From the vantage point of your experience, what would be your advice for some of the junior professionals? What are the 2-3 things you think they should focus on and spend their time on to set them up for success?
Well, a lot of us, myself included, as a long-term practitioner, you start your career either in application development or infrastructure or service management, some other aspect of IT. And I've been around long enough that when a lot of the security functions were spread about the IT shop. So access control was in one area and network was in another area. So I guess the advice I would give is try to learn, if you want your trajectory to go into leadership, try to learn a lot about everything. And so learn some of the application security guidelines, whether it be OWASP or something in that regard. Infrastructure, it's imperative to learn network technology and basic network architecture, how things are interconnected, any more so cloud, wireless, IoT, because not everything is a device you can put protection on. And then look at the different security monitoring tools, and I had this conversation with a couple of colleagues recently. I've been in healthcare, I've been in financial services, I've been in automotive, but the data is the same. The tools and techniques and processes we use as security practitioners doesn't change from industry to industry. So it's data, whether it's patient data or customer data or financial data. It's all this. It's very similar, the same. So back to your original question, contemplating this career, I would say try to get into positions where you can focus on a specific area, whether it be security operations, application security, or on the network side. And focus on that, because I heard a speaker many years ago at, I believe it was the Black Hat Conference. He made a comment that nobody can know all of it. So focus on a couple of areas where you can really dig in. If you wanted to get into security leadership, make sure you cover all the bases, understand how the business works, because if you want to get into security leadership as a CISO, you have to have, I'm finding it even more so the last, 10 years, a greater business acumen than just the technical side. And my current boss and I have had this conversation even as recently as this week, that you're paid and you're asked to lead and to develop leaders and develop and mentor security professionals, not go make changes at firewalls or do penetration testing. But you need to know enough about it that you know what you're asking for, and then you can sell it. Because many years ago, I learned when I was working at Pro Systems under Ross Pro, we're all salespeople. We have to sell to the board. We have to sell to leadership. We have to sell to get our budget. Years ago, like you said, security was scattered about IT, and we shared the budget. A couple of organizations I've been with and experienced with, we were outside the IT shop. So I reported directly to the CEO. So I had to control my own destiny. So it's getting that way. The chief information security officer position at a lot of organizations, it's a C-level executive. I'm in a position now where I stand shoulder to shoulder with my CIO and present to the board and present to the executives, and I'm called upon at a moment's notice to talk about how we support the security function as a business function.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I hear more and more that this expectation of having this business knowledge is increasingly more important, especially for senior roles. Not only that, I'm also hearing that often CISOs are expected to interface with clients, because trust is a big part of the product. I mean, it was probably more relevant for B2B kind of environment than B2C. But still, for me, it was a little bit of a revelation. So to your point, that it's more and more important not just to have the technical expertise, but also the soft skills, but also understanding of the business and being able to explain cybersecurity not only to the board but also to potential clients of the business.
Yeah,
And
knowing the security of your organization is paramount. Knowing its business in some areas is even more important, because I'm called upon frequently to meet with our big vendors, whether it be in a hospital system. We have a lot of vendors. We've got 200 plus applications that support various pieces of the hospital, not just the records management system, but the accounting systems, the time management systems. And I have to be able to represent our organization to those other vendors. And they're big corporations, the Microsofts of the world, and ADP and Epic, and some of those big organizations, that I need to represent our business interest, not just our cyber interest, because that's key. And so third-party risk management is key, making sure those vendors are doing their due diligence for protection, because we're entrusting them to support our business.
For sure. And speaking of risk management, I know back in the day, a decade ago. So when people thought of cybersecurity, they immediately thought of hackers. And I think the picture in everyone's mind was a teenager in a hoodie, hunched over a computer, face in the shadow in mom's basement somewhere, making trouble. And it makes me laugh every time, because I think sometimes cybersecurity vendors still use that image, but the world has moved on. And I think the nature of the threats is completely different. And you see well-resourced, well-funded APTs that are state-sponsored that have vacation policies and profit-sharing plans. And it's almost an enterprise scale adversary that we're facing now. So the nature of the threats, the nature of the risks has changed over the years. And from where you stand now, what's your sense? What are the top two, three most important cybersecurity problems these days?
Problems, challenges. I think, and it falls back to fundamentals. In a hospital system, or financial services, it's the users, keeping the users aware. Everybody's focused on business. Everybody's focused on getting their job done, whether you're in HR or in finance, or out on the hospital floor, but also being security aware. So my job is, and I've said this a few times, even recently, that I from a technology standpoint, we can do a lot of things to make us very secure. But we also have to do those things in a way where the end customer or end user, don't like the term user, end customer of our services, they should not see what we're doing. We should protect them, and they just know it's happening. However, at the same time, I need them to be aware that if they get an email and they weren't expecting it, be careful. Don't click on the link. Be aware of sharing information with others, especially in a hospital environment. Financial services, same thing. Sharing data can be a violation that can hit us in the compliance area, and that could be, a game changer for the organization. But being aware of just generally where you're at. And I try to get people to think about, when you're at home, you're usually aware that your doors and windows get locked at night before you go to bed, and the cars get put in the garage and the garage door gets closed. We have to think about that same thing at work on a day-to-day basis. So what keeps me up at night? Somebody left the door open. Somebody left something unlocked. Somebody picked up a USB stick and stuck it in and tried to do something. Yes, technology, we block those things. So my challenges are keeping the users aware, keeping them cyber aware without overburdening it. So it's a fine balance of how often do we communicate cybersecurity concerns, issues, information, just general knowledge, without it being like bombarding them and it just gets thrown in the trash. So that's the first one. The second challenge is continuing to sell, as I mentioned before, sell the leadership. And if I'm very fortunate, my CIO and I are good salespeople, and he raises the banner just as quickly as I do. But keep communicating with our senior leaders and our board. Our board is elected officials, so it's a little bit different. But communicating with them what we're doing, how we're protecting them. All of the leaders are targets. They get spoofed all the time. 3-4 times a day, I get emails about our CEO being impersonated. But those things, keep them aware. And then working with my counterparts, our head of infrastructure, heads of service management. We have 2 different application groups that handle, like I said, the 200 plus applications around the hospital, besides the big ones, and then all of the device protection. Valleywise, we're in the middle of developing and building a new hospital next door to the existing one. So a lot of new moving parts. And so my team isn't directly involved, but we're directly involved from keeping everything protected as it gets moved across the street or across the parking lot. So that really won't change much. So those are my challenges and where I'm at. The technology pieces, I'm very happy that I've got a very capable engineering team. looking to expand my team because it's needed. I came on board last year. My chair had been vacant for about 5-7 months at that point, and so it kind of needed some readjustment. I've got some team members that have been around for a long time, long time, 10+ years, and so their knowledge and experience is invaluable. But they're really good, and they look to me for guidance, and I'm not going to over-engineer them. You guys are all professionals and doing your great job, and whatever I can do to help you and be between you and leadership to make sure you can go get your job done.
Absolutely.
And so that helps the challenges right there.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned the users, actually people doing their job. And it seems with technology, and especially it seems like no conversation about cybersecurity is complete without bringing AI into picture. And the emerging number of deep fakes, and you mentioned spoofing, it's clearly on the rise, and they're only getting better and better. I'm not sure if you saw, there was a incident, I think it was in Singapore or Hong Kong, where a senior executive of the company, it was a deep fake, including a senior executive of the company. So the employee thought that he was in a Zoom call, and the CEO was effectively directing him to wire, I think it was 25 million, an equivalent of $25 million. And it was successful. And it was probably a couple of months ago. So this was the first one that I saw, but it's, with technology being so new and so emergent, it kind of remains to be seen how any technology is obviously being used by the bad actors as it's going to be used for good. It's only the beginning. So the job of defenders is clearly cut out for us to educate the users about how this landscape is changing. So yes, you can probably recognize an email that's looks like it's coming from a bank, but the links are not leading to the same URL. So there are certain kind of giveaways and telltales that you probably can identify something that's a phishing attack. But for something that with deepfakes, it's new and emergent. I think it's only this work will only continue. What are your thoughts on some of those new technologies that are being deployed by bad actors? Is there ever any hope for stopping these attacks, or it's going to continue to be cat and mouse kind of chase?
There is hope, and I think it falls back to, again, fundamentals. I mentioned that earlier, the fundamentals. Whether it be a deep fake or, it's happened for years and years where people will monitor social media. Oh, the CFO's on vacation. Now we can go, try to leverage one of his people to send out a wire. A lot of that, and I don't want to push this away from the technology side. Yeah, we can have all kinds of great technology, but the practices of the business side, there's got to be rules in place. I mean, if it's a deep fake and you see a Zoom call and the COO is instructing somebody to do a wire and somebody does that wire, how come there's not a few other checks and balances besides that Zoom call that are saying, no, we're not going to do this $25 million wire, because one, he would never make that request on a Zoom call. And most CEOs and chief executives would let their people would know that I would never be asking that question. Like I get notification from my bank now and then. It's like, we will never be emailing you about this. It's always going to be a direct phone call for fraud. Those kind of things. So it's the fundamentals of business processes and the people. I keep falling back to the people, but too many organizations, they run along smoothly, and they fall into the trap. And it was a quote years ago by Admiral Grace Hooper: the most dangerous phrase in the English language is, "We've always done it that way." Because nobody bothered to do the checks and balances. Oh, we always did it that way, so let it go through. Oh, I always get this, I mean, we're looking at things right now with phones and with email about automatic notifications. Everybody gets an app, hey, turn on notifications. It's the first thing they want you to do. We're going to start blocking that. No, you don't get automatic notifications. You want them, it's an exception. You got to come to Bob and get it done. And so the fundamentals of that, AI has been around in security for a long time. We've called it a lot of different things. My fellow practitioners and I will know that, a good SIM, a good security monitoring tool is going to have a correlation engine. It's going to see an event. It's going to go out to that engine and go, have I seen this event before? Oh, I recognize it in 3 other locations and other organizations. And it's going to, help to thwart the data. That's AI. AI's got to have a source of knowledge before it can be knowledgeable. And so that's AI in a nutshell right there. So those kind of things are, I think, overplayed right now. I'm looking at my team and I've got a couple of themes with them. I talk about 100% certainty. We need to be 100% certain of what our network perimeter looks like. We need to be 100% certain of who's attaching to it, what they're doing, and what they're accessing with 100% certainty. My CIO and I have had this conversation even before I came on board. How am I going to make the organization secure? I'm going to do my best to make us resilient. We're going to get attacked. The person says we're not going to get attacked is fooling themselves. We're going to get attacked, and we get attacked every day. Everybody does. The trick is to keep our systems resilient enough that if we got hit with ransomware, find out where the attack came from, block them out, get back to business, be resilient, get back to business. So
it makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, I would imagine that the attackers are going for the low-hanging fruit. So if your organization is more secure, if your defenses are more robust, they'll just move on to the next target who may be less secure. Well, it's this old joke that you don't need to run faster than the bear, you just need to run faster than the guy next to you, right? So
yes.
So you just don't be perceived as an easy target.
Yep.
But with this, and again, I'm not sure if you can comment on this, but obviously, healthcare organizations, by the nature of the fact that there was always kind of personal identifiable information involved, the records are fairly sensitive. To your point, they're being attacked. And recently, like the big case with United Healthcare, I think I read the news, and again, publicly available information. I read that I think they're still trying to determine the full scope of how many records were impacted, how many people were impacted. And they said almost every citizen of the United States was one way or another may have been impacted by that specific incident.
Yep.
From your standpoint, do you have any kind of anything you can share on the specific incident, and any advice specifically for healthcare cybersecurity executives on what they could do to not be the target? Not
on the specific incident, they haven't revealed a lot of the details. When it happened, we were fortunate enough that there's a couple of organizations that my team sits on. HISAC is one of them, and they had a WebEx or a Slack chat going on. And my lead engineer heard him talking about, that Change Health had an issue, and there was a ransomware attack. That was in the afternoon. We didn't hear from Change Health or even United Healthcare and the American Hospital Association till well after midnight. So we, keep your intelligence there. Yes, it was a big attack. Initially, it didn't impact us directly because we weren't a big customer of Change Health. We do have some of it, but the bigger impact is all of the ancillary services around us. They're impacted. And so when they're impacting the revenue stream, that's going to be the ripple effect. It's impacted a little bit of supply chain. It's impacted a lot of payer stuff. Yeah, they haven't revealed how many users, but from my days back when I was with Experian, they got almost everybody. Everybody who's ever touched any kind of healthcare system, which is all of us from the day we're born, will probably have some residual impact from it. Rumors on the street is the ransom was some amount of ransom was paid. Somebody even made a comment, I can't substantiate, that the ransom was paid. They're using a ransom as a service provider, which you can do that now. You can go get ransomware as a service. The service provider kept the ransom, and the original ransom requester never got it. So it's a slippery slope out there. Again, these aren't substantiated. I have been in conversations with the FBI in a group, but I can't reveal any of that at this point.
For sure.
But yeah, it's a tough thing. And so again, stay resilient. Be well aware of your environment, your network. If you get breached, be able to have the tools and technology to go find it right away and lock it out. And if it's something that's been sitting there dormant for months and months, you could have a lot of work to have to build it back. And the bigger build back is build back the trust of your customer. I mean, we're a county hospital, so we serve the underserved. They come to us when they won't go to a private hospital, but we can still lose our reputation. Change Health, who knows where that's going to go, because they're a big player, and they still haven't they haven't given enough comfort and attestation for people to, we'll turn it back on.
For sure. And well, as you said, it's focus on educating your employees and your users, and focus on basic hygiene, and don't be an easy target, and know what's going on in your, and don't hope, as they say, trust but verify. That's awesome.
I love analogies, and I keep telling my team, it's like basics. You got to hit the ball, throw the ball, catch the ball. Get really good at those things, and then we can do all the fun stuff outside of that. And so,
for sure. Well, Bob, you mentioned some of the organizations that you're part of, and obviously we understand that Affinia is not the only community of cybersecurity executives. And I'm always kind of curious about something that we can do in addition to what we're already doing. From your perspective, what's some of the things you would recommend we, either initiatives or ideas that we can do to make Affinia more valuable for our members?
Well, I think that the value I get from Affinia, you're right. I'm part of several different communities, because you never want to go to one source. But what I've gotten from Affinia that I think has been very effective is they have a good process of selecting vendors and other organizations for me to speak to, or they want my advice, or I can ask questions to. And so it was more not just a sales pitch, because trust me, I get 4 or 5 dozen emails a week on, I've got the latest and greatest to solve all your problems.
I imagine.
And fortunately, we've got some good web filtering and good email filtering that it catches it and puts it in a bucket for me, and I'm just go, nope, and it's all gone. A few get through. But most CISOs I know, we've been around long enough. We know what technologies are out there. We know which ones we like and have used before, and we go to that. What Affinia has been able to give me is that a different perspective on some of it. I've participated in quite a few conversations and calls. How can they improve? A lot of the organizations that I belong to, they'll have local events, they'll have chapters or communities that you can belong to. As Affinia grows, I think you'll get to that point too, where it's like you'll have a Phoenix chapter, you'll have a Southern California chapter, you'll have a regional something or other.
Absolutely.
Right now, because of the nature of our work, I get invited to a lot of things like, hey, come over here for half a day, and it's like, I can't give you half a day. I can now and then, but it's got to really fit. And I haven't gone to any of the major conferences in a while. COVID was part of that. But even there, I've reevaluated, does it give me at the C level what I need? If Affinia were to have a smaller community groups we could put together, it's like, okay, we can put together a half a dozen or a dozen healthcare C-level security practitioners. They don't have to be CISO level, but they could be senior director or something, where, hey, this group of people, you're all kind of cross-connected. Mm-hmm. So if you got questions, or you just go back and forth. And it doesn't have to necessarily be government versus non-government, because I'm technically county government. And so I work closely with the state, and I work closely with the county here in Arizona. But develop those kind of communities. And then also as resources to, I want to say mentor, but at least be, sometimes I'd want just a couple other security people I can just like, I know we can't get together and have a beer, but can we get on a call, even if it's toward the end of the day? I just want to vent on a couple of things and get your feedback.
For sure. So it sounds like it could be, one is industrial layer, so being able to connect with senior executives just in healthcare, and the other one is local to a geographic area. So it's almost like
Regional,
you
yeah.
mentioned as a chapter. It's certainly, we're thinking all these lines, and as you mentioned, as the community grows, I'm hoping we're going to cross the 2,000 member mark in a few months. It's definitely, those are exactly the two vectors that we want to kind of improve how we deliver value to members. So I appreciate your feedback. It's certainly, we're definitely thinking on these lines. Bob, I know we're coming up on time, and thank you so much for sharing your insights.
You're welcome.
What's the best way for people to connect? Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. If they want to say that they've connected through you, Misha, or through Athenia, then I'll more than likely accept it. Again, I get a lot of LinkedIn connections.
I can imagine.
Hey, can you participate in this survey? We'll pay you. Some of the salespeople out there need to realize that if they're approaching anybody in any kind of government position, city, state, county, federal, we can't accept anything. If I've got some very, very fun and exciting offers to, do things. It's like, nope, can't accept it.
Absolutely.
So it's a compliance issue. So yeah, I am on LinkedIn, and please reach out to me there. If it's not a sales pitch, if it's more of, hey, I'm another security person working in healthcare in Texas or whatever, and heard you on Athenia, and I would like to connect with you, do that. And I think through the sites and stuff you can connect as well.
Absolutely. Bob, thank you so much.
You're welcome.